So you negotiated a trade deal, a rewrite of the NAFTA. And by the way, that kind of trade deal should be rewritten every decade, couple of decades or so. Everybody understands that. It was a good time to do it. We knew a lot more about trade among these countries. And it really did seem to be an improvement. I thought it was an improvement. It should be an improvement. Now, the guy you negotiated with violates the trade deal he negotiated with you. What can you possibly do next with someone who behaves like that?
Well, first of all, we're a resilient people. We're a resilient country. So are the Mexicans. We're working with great determination. I think you had part of the Prime Minister's speech yesterday. It's a remarkable time. The Prime Minister is going to be stepping down soon from his post. There'll be a newly elected leader of the Liberal Party, which is the government in power at the moment, on Sunday. So this is really Prime Minister Trudeau's last period in office. And I think his speech yesterday, he showed enormous determination and clarity. And in a speech that he gave and was him speaking to the Canadian people and speaking directly to the president, he indicated that this approach that the president is taking is wrong. It is illegal, and it's also just wrong because it adds costs and prices to everybody in an economy on both sides of the border, in fact, all sides of the border, that has brought huge benefit to our country and to the United States. And it is possible to have a trade agreement that actually allows everyone to do better. And that's what we've discovered, and we've worked at it since the 1980s. So we are going to continue to work with the administration to try to figure out what is it about this agreement that he now finds so offensive, but also to understand that, this is the time for renegotiation is a year from now. 2026 is the statutory time, the time in law when we're supposed to renegotiate the agreement. And we are ready to sit down at any table and negotiate, but we do need to create some sense of certainty and fairness in terms of how we all treat each other. And that, I think, is what's been lost. The statements the president's made about the 51st state, the references to Mr. Trudeau as the governor of Canada, these are not a joke. They never were a joke for me. I always thought they were deeply offensive and really strike at the heart of what it means to be a Canadian in this world. And I think a lot of people in Canada are stunned and then angry. And I think you're seeing that in the streets of Canada today. You're seeing a sense of deep frustration and deep anger. But I think the governments of Canada are going to continue to negotiate in good faith with the United States. And if it means going to a dispute settlement mechanism or to challenging the law in court, if that's what it takes, or we have to do that, that's, of course, something we can do. But I think above all, what we want to do is reach a fair and reasonable negotiation with the president and with his team. And that's something that we're still very willing to do.
My reading of the market yesterday, and reading of the market is always guessing.
Yeah, a little tricky. You get whiplash.
When things got really serious in the stock market, when Prime Minister Trudeau spoke, because the market hadn't heard from him. They knew the Trump game. They'd been through the Trump game before. They didn't believe Trump. They didn't believe Trump when he threatened the tariffs the first time around, and then he paused them, for a month. And they never expected him to impose these tariffs. They expected another pause, and then they went forward. And then they heard from Canada, and they heard a firmness from the Prime Minister that was clear and solid and strong and determined. And that's when the market said, "Oh, this is real. Canada's going to fight back, and Canada has very strong ammunition here."
Well, first of all, it is the Prime Minister leading the country, but it's also all the premiers
yes,
working at the provincial level. And we have a highly decentralized federation where the premiers, I was a premier at one time many years ago. And so there's a lot of power in the provinces to do stuff as well. And there's a lot of frustration, and it's shared not only geographically across the board in Canada, but it's shared across party lines. We have representatives of several different parties.
This has been unifying.
This has been an incredibly, I wouldn't just say unifying, I would say galvanizing. This is something that is galvanizing our country with enormous determination. And so what the Prime Minister's announced is a series of steps. You do this, we'll do this. And that's painful to do because it hurts us as much as it hurts the people who are being affected. But more importantly, I think the issue for us now is how do we get this thing back on track? What is it that's really behind it? It doesn't seem to be the fentanyl because Canada's not a huge source of fentanyl. We all agree that we have to take steps to reinforce the border. That's happening everywhere. And we understand the need to do that. And that's being done. So what is this really about? And it's the sense that this is such a moving target that the Prime Minister, I think he felt, well, we just have to do what we're going to do. And we have to get some clarity from the American government as to what is it going to take for you to understand that we don't accept this. And we have cars and integrated industries you've described. We have resources of all kinds.